Hi, my name's Natasha Ayres, and it's great to be talking with you today about grant writing. So for some of you, you might be new to grant writing. For others, it might be something that you've tried in the past but potentially haven't had as much success with. Hopefully, some of the tips that we share with you are going to help you on your path to more successful grant writing. I myself, as a researcher and business owner, have obviously been needing to do lots of grant writing over the years. I also work as a grant writer for a lot of small businesses, plus I sit on the other side, so I'm on the selection panel for several funding schemes. So I have a good awareness of what the selection panel are looking for and what helps make a successful grant application. What I'll cover in this brief introduction today is really why you should be applying for funding, what types of grants are out there for you, where are the sources so you can find out about the funding, and of course, how to write a successful application. So firstly, why should you even be bothering to look at grants? And this really does depend on your business type and your goals. So if you're in the startup phase, you might be looking at grants as an opportunity to kickstart funding without having to give up any equity. For small to medium-sized enterprises, you might be looking to spend some money on business innovation, but don't want to have to put in all the capital yourself. And if you're in the not-for-profit sector, then grants are a really good source of raising funds for projects without having to do just philanthropic fundraising as well. It also comes down to your individual goals. So for some people, they are looking for the money for their business. They might also be looking for external recognition, and that's where some of the awards programs are really useful. It can also be a great way to sort of raise your profile and attract new clients, help develop new partnerships, and of course build capacity and hopefully have some impact and affect change in the world in some way. So you really need to think for your business and your own personal career and professional goals, why you should be applying for this funding scheme. So I'll go through briefly some of the different types of funding opportunities, which are essentially grants, awards, tenders, and some tax breaks. Firstly, with the grants, which is the most common, and there is quite a lot available. They're available at all levels, really. So at the local level with your local council, at regional level with development commissions and research, Regional Development Australia. There's also state funding schemes. For example, the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation have their innovation vouchers, things like the Local Capability Fund. Nationally, there's some fantastic grants through the federal government with the Entrepreneurs Program. And of course, it's really critical that you look for your own industry at the breadth of awards that are available. So I know particularly in agriculture and mining, there are so many grants out there that might be relevant to your business. So it's worth looking through your industry sector support agencies. And of course, some of the private and community groups also have their own funding schemes. With awards, it's kind of a similar format. So at the local level, there's often the Local Business Awards. WA has the Innovator of the Year Awards, which is a really good scheme that you should consider, particularly for raising your profile, as well as the monetary rewards. Telstra have their Business of the Year program. And again, there's plenty of industry-specific awards that you should be looking out for. And when it comes to tenders, these are often a government process, and it's a little bit different to grants in the sense that the project's normally quite clearly defined and you're having to put in a bid to win that project essentially. So it's worth seeing what local government, state government and federal schemes are available. My main advice around the tenders is before you bid, trying to find a price range, which can be quite hard. Also seeing if there's any pre-qualification requirements. So always check that before you start to make sure you are actually eligible. I personally, before I apply for any tender, I sort of apply the 20% rule. If I think I've got a 20% chance of winning the tender, then I'll decide that's probably worth my time to put in for it. But often it does take up a lot of your time, and time is money, so it's important to really weigh that up. And the important thing is that you can demonstrate value for money. It's not always the cheapest bid wins, so you have to demonstrate that you've got the expertise, the experience, and you can deliver a really high quality for that price. There's numerous tax breaks out there, and I do recommend getting in touch with a qualified tax accountant, which I won't pretend to be. But some of the schemes that you should be looking at include the R&D tax incentive. So this provides a really fantastic rebate on any of your business activities that are related to research. The New Enterprise Incentive Scheme is great for people who potentially are unemployed and are looking for some support to get their business off the ground. The Early Stage Innovation Company scheme is fantastic if you're looking to attract investors. And it's quite easy to qualify for this program, particularly if you've gone through one of the accelerator programs, which there's plenty of around these days. And of course, the Export Market Development Grant is a really good way to get quite a big rebate off any business activities related to developing export market opportunities, which could be as simple as, you know, anything on your website that's promoted to overseas markets as well. So at the end of the day, but it is quite specific to your business. So there's lots of schemes out there, and it's really important to think about your individual requirements and what resources might be useful to you, depending on your industry, your business type, and your individual goals as well. Here's a bit of a website dump, so that gives you a bit of an overview of a lot of the resources that are out there. The grants.gov.au website, Grant Connect, is fantastic. I recommend signing up for their alerts. And of course, the state government initiatives, particularly in the New Industries Fund through GIPSI, and the tenders.gov.au website is a great way to keep up to date with any of the tenders that might be coming through which are relevant to you. So that's, I guess, a lot of the resources that you can sign up for. But at the end of the day, it's really about who you know and who can actually help you on your journey. So a lot of those government programs have really fantastic facilitators that you should get in touch with. There's private consultants who also help with grant writing. But most importantly, it's about building your industry networks so that you know when these schemes are coming up, and also so they're aware of your business and they're likely to approach you before these grant schemes even open. So it's that networking and collaborating across your industry is so important. Finally, just a few tips on how to win grants. So I developed this sort of 5-step program, which I can flesh out in more detail if you get in touch with me, to build a successful funding application. And this 5 steps really focuses on positioning yourself for success, so getting yourself and your business in a position where you're more likely to win the grants. There's no point even applying until your business is in that position. Making sure that you've got a really strong vision and strategy for delivering a quality project. Step 3 is about collaboration, so finding the right people to work with you. Step 4 is around the budget, making sure you've got, I guess, your numbers all triple checked and that it's worthwhile your time doing this project and that you're not going to have any surprises at the end. And of course, reviewing it and getting feedback from other people is super important. But the more time I've spent on grants and grant applications, I've realised that this 5-step process is actually in the wrong order. So the most important step is actually starting with your budget. You really can't even begin to scope out a project until you know what the budget is. And often a lot of the funding schemes have a match funding requirement. So you really need to work out what match funding you can contribute, because that is going to dictate how much you can apply for, and then of course what the scope of the project can be. The other resource I really like to use is having just a 1-page plan. It's a bit like the lean canvas for each grant application. If you spend half an hour doing this type of canvas for each funding scheme, it really gives you a good snapshot as to whether or not you've got a competitive application, and then is it worth your time to proceed with the full application. So I've built into this the 5 steps that I mentioned on the previous slide, and it's really important, I think, that you do look at, yes, your eligibility and the selection criteria and the key dates to make sure it's relevant. Then ensuring that you've got a really strong value proposition to make sure that you're in a really good position to offer a quality project that is aligned to the project goals of the funding scheme, and that's going to have a broader impact to the community. Then, of course, it's about building your really strong team, because that's what a lot of the funding schemes are looking for, that it's not just going to add value to your business, that's going to have broader benefits to a wider industry as well. And then, of course, it's about, you know, the outcomes from the project and making sure you've got a plan in place to monitor and meet reporting outcomes. So I'm happy to share this resource if you want to get in touch with me as well. Just finally, remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch, unfortunately. Grants do come, I guess, with quite a few caveats, and you have to make sure that you are meeting those funding requirements. Often the reporting and auditing requirements are quite stringent for grants, which is fair enough, it's taxpayers' money. So making sure that you are aware of all this before you apply is important. Because once you sign that funding contract, you are really tied to it. Of course, good luck, and it is a really good opportunity to grow your business strategically with grants. So please get in touch with me if you'd like any further information. Thank you.